far end, if you can just briefly introduce yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your history, just so people get to know you.
Sure. I'm Reba Kruse. I come from Pickens County. I live in the city of Pickens. Originally, I'm from Florida. I am a U.S. Air Force veteran. I've served across South Carolina, Idaho, South Korea, and Germany. I am a new county party chair, so this has been a whirlwind in an election year, and I'm very grateful for the state party for choosing to change our leadership scheduling in elections. But I'm a registered nurse. I'm active in the community as a community organizer fighting in the civil rights fight.
Could you talk about a lawsuit you filed up in Pickens County? I read about that in the news.
Yes, I am a plaintiff in the lawsuit filed against the school district of Pickens County when the board voted to ban the book Stamped by Jason Reynolds.
Well, thank you for that. Appreciate your activism.
Hi, I'm Cherry Brown. I'm from McCormick County. I have pretty much served for 8 years as McCormick County Council from 90 to 98. Okay, can you hear me better now? Okay. I've served on County Council in McCormick from 90 to 98. Basically, I've been involved with the community for years and years as the director of John Delahouse School for over 28 years, where I serve as the director. Presently, I am a licensed master social worker, retired from the state of South Carolina after 28 years. I became the chair of McCormick County Democratic Party in, I think it was March of 2022. So like Reba, coming in during an election time for the local midterms was very difficult when you're just learning your job. So I'm just here and ready to serve, a little disappointed, or very disappointed, for the 2024 November election, but knowing that this is just another fight to move on, that we can't stop here.
Thank you, Chair.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Booker T. Ingram. I'm a retired professor from Presbyterian College. I taught there for 34 years, from 1987 to 2021, as a political science professor. It's been a joy for me for the past 9 months to serve as chair of the Lawrence Democratic Party. This is the first time that I got a chance to go outside of the classroom. I spent most of my career traveling abroad. When I wasn't in the classroom, I've been a visiting professor at the National Institute of Law and Linguistics in Ukraine. I have been a guest researcher at the University of Havana in Havana, Cuba, and I've been in Guyana and other countries as well. But there's a deep appreciation I've learned, and it was fantastic to listen to Bill this morning as he talked about state and local problems. I've been on a platform where I spent a great deal of time looking at national and international problems. And this particular opportunity as chair of the Lawrence County Democratic Party has allowed me to look more closely at things close to home. And I can remember Tip O'Neill, who the former Speaker of the House, said all politics is local. And it's been a joy for me, even though it's been a challenging time with the Lawrence County Democratic Party as we rebuilt that party. But I'm very happy to say that we have large numbers now attending our party, and like many of you all, they were disappointed too with the outcome of November 5th. I've wrestled with that. I came here this morning, each of you all should have at your table a document that I put together. It reads the reasons why Trump won the 2024 election. We will go over that as we get into some of the discussions, but it's taken up a great deal of my time to think about that. I was all right the first night of the election, November 5th. Wednesday I did okay, but Thursday I just had a collapse. thinking that we would have to deal with this for the next 4 years, but we can do it. And I look forward to the challenge that we're going to have to face. And we're going to become the opposition party now. We're going to contest many ill-advised policies that will be presented by the Trump administration. And I think that we all should become very active. And as Bill pointed out, we should pay attention to the suggested legislation by the Republican Party.
Thank you very much. Boy, what esteemed guests we have. And I am very grateful that every one of you said yes. I appreciate that. You don't get a lot of yeses, so when you said yes, that was just put a smile on my face. This is great. You all know me, Bill Kimler, chair of the Greenwood County Democratic Party. I've been chair since the pandemic of 2020, and my term will end on March 1st, and it's just been a joy. I don't have the history that my esteemed chairs do, so I'm very humble. I think the only thing I have in my credit is that I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, born and raised. Exactly, so that's my claim to fame. But other than that, I'm an IT professional, and politics is my side hobby and passion. And it was the first Trump presidency that took me off the sidelines to get involved, and I've been involved ever since. So we're going to do 3 quick questions that I have prepared, and I would like to get 3 quick answers as best as possible, and then open it up to the audience for any additional questions, okay? So first question, and we'll start with you, Reba, and then work our way towards me. We are all aware of how devastating the November election was, especially the loss of 4 Democrat state Senate seats here in South Carolina. Do you feel the South Carolina Democratic Party did all they could do? Name one strength and one thing you think they could have done better last year.
I really don't have the longevity of service in the chair role to really have, I guess, a really detailed critique. But what I can say is that one of the major strengths that I saw was a responsiveness in, we did have one local race for State House. A candidate did come forward, and when the June primary occurred and the Republican candidate that emerged was not ideal, far from ideal, actually a very destructive candidate. The state party did respond and hear me when I explained who the person was, and then they made the choice to enter that race as one of the priorities, understanding that the state party, just like us, have very limited time, people, and money in order to win races, but they did respond and hear me, and I was very grateful for that. One of the, I guess, weaknesses, if you can call it that, again, from my experience, there was, I guess, in the urgency of the campaigning as a county party chair, I didn't have as much visibility into activities between the candidate and the state party, and I'm not really convinced yet that that was my prerogative because I didn't have as much to offer in that, and it was a state-centric race. But really, I'm very gentle when it comes to the state party. A lot of focus and grievances people have been to focus on something else. And I'm very much focused local and what can we do and how can we contribute to our local candidates. So I'm very local focused, and I'm working very hard to bring everyone's attention to local because we are the grassroots and no one is coming to save us. We've got to put in the work, and we've got to eliminate this construct of shifting focus to somebody or something else, and really take some honest inventory of what we're doing at the local level.
Thank you. Cherry?
Okay, briefly. It is my understanding that the South Carolina Democratic Party, as well as the local counties, did all that they could do to win. But maybe that still was not enough, because why would you put a race out there and then not put all the resources necessary to win that race? They provided us with signs, postcards. They did a lot of mail-outs for individual candidates. They made calls to us to address issues that they saw where people were not going to the polls. So those are some of the positive things. Negative-wise, in terms of, in my case, may have been just maybe not getting back to me quick enough when I make contact with them about issues. And again, with limited resources, just ending up with the DNC, coming back from the DNC, they had a lot on their hands. So.
Well, this is my first year as leading the Lawrence County Democratic Party. I thought the South Carolina Democratic Party, the state team, did a fairly decent job of responding to some of the concerns that we had, and provided us with enough information with signage and mobilization and that type of thing. I wish that we could have done more phone banking. That would have been very helpful. Sometimes I worry that we are viewed as a non-competitive state. We don't get the resources that we should get. I wish we could, as a party, and that goes for all state parties, Democratic parties throughout the nation, we could look at politics as running a 50-state campaign in the way that Obama did in 2008, and I don't think we do that. I really think more resources need to be given to people at the local level. We need to build a party at the local level. I'm really concerned that we are unable to get candidates at the local level to, people at the local level to come forward as candidates in opposition to the Republicans. And that's one thing I think that we in Lawrence County have to work on. Sometimes we will need surrogates from the state office. I don't think we were adequately provided that in this past election. I know they are shorthanded. I know that we are considered a non-competitive state, but I wish there would be more investment in building parties and helping us with candidates in states so that we will become competitive. Thank you.
Great answers also. I don't know that I have much to add. Good. I saw something new from the state party this year that I hadn't seen before, and that was a focus on every candidate. I have run twice for office now, and the first time I ran, nobody from the party ever really contacted me. The second time I ran, I had a full sit-down with Crystal Spain, the chair, and several others, and while they knew I was in a very difficult race, and they had focused on 5 other House races to really put all their efforts behind the fact that they contacted every Democratic candidate, spent time with them, answered questions, asked how they could help. I thought that was a step in the right direction. Could they have done more? Sure, but they hadn't done that before. So if they build on that in the future, I think that's great. On the bad side, it still irked me that to this date, we had so many seats run unopposed. And the state party, working with the county parties, have to make that a priority. When 50% of, more than 50% of the state house elections only had one candidate on it, Republican or Democrat, that's not a democracy. There's no choice. And so the Democratic Party of South Carolina, along with every county party this year, needs to make it a top priority that somebody is on the ballot, and hopefully a good somebody, for every race, whether it's at county, whether it's at House, whether it's at Senate level. We need to be done with the uncontested races, and I hope that becomes a focus. Our second question is similar. Take that same question to your own county party. You've had a chance to reflect. We've got a new year, fresh new ideas and new opportunities. What do you think that you did well as a county party? What will you do better 2025 and 26? We'll start with Cherry on that one.
Okay. I think what was really done really well was the coordination of volunteers to get out and go and knock on doors with local candidates to help make sure we got the word out, who they are and what they were all about. And then what we could have done better is even more of that. I think we could have started a lot earlier. I think we could have gotten more and more individuals than what we had. We had a good quality of individuals who were consistently going out, but I think there could have been a whole lot more. In addition to that, what we could have done differently is there are so many people. McCormick County is very rural, and there's no specific way, one specific way to make contact with a lot of people at one particular time. And since churches no longer allow you to come into their congregations and speak with their members, it's very difficult to get a lot of people. But even if you do that, a lot of people don't show up to church anymore. So that takes away that visibility. But we think we as a Democratic Party must have a greater visibility. We must go out and tap into more people in whatever way, wherever we can find them, however we can find them.
Okay. I learned a lot of things from this experience. I was very pleased with the number of volunteers we had, but I was a little bit troubled that there's a great deal of burden placed on a few people. I wish that we can increase the level of support throughout the county. And I think we probably will need to, in Lawrence County, touch base. You were mentioned earlier, Bill, that we need to touch every town, city, village within the county and promoting the Democratic Party and the candidates running for the Democratic Party. I think that becomes very important. I was very pleased with the phone banking that we did. We did some voter registration drives as well. Had a number of events doing that. And I was very pleased with that as well. But we need more volunteers, and we'll continue to work on that as well.
Thank you. Here in Greenwood, I think the thing that we did best last year is that we raised and spent a lot of money as a county party. Believe it or not, thousands of dollars went directly to our candidates that we supported, that were put to good use. In addition to that, we did a lot of advertising, both digitally and in papers. We even did that We Need a Choice advertising campaign in February and March to encourage people to run for office. So we put our money where our mouths were, and I think we're going to do more of that, and I'm proud that we were able to do that, and thank you for all of your generosity. What we need to improve upon is more direct engagement with the voters. We do great among friendly people. We are absent among those we need to convert. And so we did some good things, like we were at the barbecue festival. We've been at the Juneteenth ceremonies. But I think with things like the town halls, we're going to be more directly involved, more events, and especially more youth engagement. Who's the youngest one here in the group? Jim Ellis, put your hand down. All right, we don't see a lot of high schoolers and college students, and we're going to have to re-engage and focus on that area in the coming months.
What did Pickens County Democratic Party do well? The former chair, in recruiting me to take over step into this role, put me forward and suggested that I apply for the Clyburn Fellowship with the state party, and I did. And the state party poured into me, and my county party supported me. So gaining that influence, or that experience, has brought a different perspective for me than what has been in Pickens County before. And through that experience, we went from 6 people typically attending our meetings to now we're averaging mid-30s to low 40s in just 9 months. I've put a lot of focus into fundraising and getting noticed that we are here. Pickens County is unique because we are very deeply controlled with the extremist Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, and many people are very fearful to be known as Democrats. This is a very real, tangible fear that is difficult to overcome. And that holds us back quite a bit. But through my community activism, I use that as an example to say I'm here, I am known, I am up front and center, they know who I am, and I'm still here, to try to give some courage. We also were able to attract record volunteers, at least from recent memory, maybe going back further, but that has been what we've done really well, is to bring in money to be able to build our resources so that we could contribute to candidates and to our community. I view the county party as a movement building and a community building effort, and that's where we develop those long-term relationships that are lasting. One of the things that we have to do better in the topic of candidate recruitment, unlike the early days of the Republic, we don't have a draft system typically to pop people out of the community and make them run for office or make them serve in office. And so because of this fear that we have to be known as Democrats, we are consistently unopposed races in our county. And it is very difficult to recruit and to convince people just to run. I've invested a lot in educating the public about what a county party does, what its contribution can be. Running for office doesn't necessarily mean that you win, but you are sending the message, you're getting the message out, and you're also making those Republicans have to fund their race. They can no longer run unopposed with no investment, just expecting that inevitable outcome. But those two things really hammering the point home that a county party, we do not pull up the stakes after the election. We are there, we're permanent, we stay there long after that election, and to convince the community to invest in us so that we can in turn invest in our community.
Wonderful. All right. Among my distinguished guests and colleagues, final warm-up question, and then we'll turn it to the audience. Why in your right mind do you think anybody would want to be a chair of a county party? Why? So we'll start with you, Mr. Ingram.
It's a wonderful opportunity to learn about your county and the way people feel about politics as well. One of the biggest surprise, Rebecca, as I thought about my party, it was the first time, and my party had been dormant for a couple of years. Our numbers run about 35 to 40 for each meeting. It was the first time I had heard, and I had been removed from certain social circles because I spent a great deal of time on campus and hadn't gotten to know my county as well as I should have. But it was surprising to me that once I became chair, to how people approached me and said, this is the first time I can go out and tell people I'm a Democrat. They saw our meetings as a safe place where they could come and talk about problems and talk with people who were somewhat like-minded. I really did not know within the subculture in the community, and I guess in Lawrence County, we recognize that 65% of the whites are going to vote for the Republican Party and Trump, that it became very difficult for a lot of whites to share their political allegiance to the Democratic Party. I think we're overcoming that. I think that was one of the accomplishments that I saw during my time as chair. It's a wonderful way to think about the school boards, the sewage district, water districts, learning your community, building relationships. There are many things that are a result of my being part of the Lawrence County Democratic Party, that I feel much better about my county now, knowing that there are like-minded people in the county. Sometimes when you do too much polling and looking at the data, you wonder whether or not everyone is going in the direction of the Republicans. But it was very pleasing for me and my friends to know that we have a very visible cohort of Democrats in Lawrence County now, and we want to continue to build upon that. So it's been very satisfying for me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, sir. My answer is simple. The number one reason I'm the chair is for the money. I've been able to buy a nice big house, a couple of luxury cars, put all my kids through college. But you set that aside, to me it's the personal relationships I've made with you here in Greenwood, with people in other counties, and all across the state, exposing me to a world I never would have been exposed to any other way. And I'm grateful for every minute of having been chair because of that. There are people on my Christmas card list who live in Beaufort, who live in York, who live in Charleston, I never would have met if it hadn't been for being involved as a state party chair.
Well, my core attribute is service. Being a veteran, being a nurse, being involved in my community. Service is my driver, my motivator. Secondary to that, I looked around and no one else was coming forward. And in a time where almost 3 years ago now, for the first time in the nation of our history, a recognized constitutional right was removed from the people rather than continuing to progress, that sent a very clear message that we were in trouble. And I couldn't ask other people to step up if I wasn't willing to go first. And sometimes it takes someone to take a step first. I have no other motive other than to serve my community and to be the opposition to what has been happening, what is happening, and what is still yet to happen. I try to stay very motivated, and this is difficult work, and one must understand that when they choose to step into the role. However, the opportunity to engage with the public, my county at large, has been very eye-opening. I've learned a lot of people sit on the sidelines, take the title of independent, and yet feel the need to call me at the moment of crisis and demand that I do something. And that's my opportunity every single time to invite them into taking a role with me. And getting over that dynamic has been a huge benefit, because it teaches me and it teaches the community that it takes all of us to be involved at some level, and whatever level you can be involved, not necessarily taking the big role, but doing something, and then build from there. As the first step is taken, confidence grows. And I've got to meet remarkable people around the state that I consider to be lifelong friends, deeply held relationships that I never would have had otherwise.
Likewise, just meeting individuals who are on the same level as chairs, that you can always call someone and get input, advice, support. And actually, Bill, I've done a lot of that with him because he is a senior compared to me. Coming in and recognizing that. The other part of being a chair is just, my background is social work. You know, I'm the type of person that like to go and help the community. I like to help the community help themselves. And I feel like one of the things about life is that it doesn't matter what situation you're in, there's always an opportunity or a map to come out of it, as long as you're willing to do so. And so sometimes it seems easy to get a win when the win is at your back, but when it's in your face, it's a little bit more difficult, but you still can't give up. And I'm so thankful because I do have a great support group from the McCormick County Democratic individuals, and I have a group here that I'm thankful that came to support me. The other thing is just being visible. We're finding people like Dr. Ingram says that are totally afraid to speak their minds about who they are because of the backlash of where they live. Savannah Lakes Village is a very strong Republican area, and so when we step out and people see that there are other Democrats, they can identify with us and come and feel at home. But when you have people who can come into you the day after the election and basically state that they're going to kill themselves, and so they lost all hope. And you can't now, as a chair, when the bad thing happened, walk away for the next year. You have to stay and fight. So that's my why.
All right. Well, I appreciate the answers to those questions, and now we really open up the can of worms. Let's hear from the audience. So, Tori, if you would grab this microphone.
After the election, I'm kind of in the mindset of America's in the find out phase. And I know what I'm working through is what's your response, or what should our response in that find out phase be? I agree with the front of this thing, which a lot of Democrats set out, so they're about to find out. A lot of folks voted for lies that they knew were obvious lies, but they're about to find out. But I also recognize that in the midst of all of that pain of finding out is an opportunity then to grow and change. So as a local party, what are some of the things that we can do to take advantage of that? And particularly, would a precinct level strategy, kind of like the old days of community organization like what Obama did, would that actually be viable in today's environment?
All right, so to repeat the question succinctly there, Alan says we are heading into the find out phase with the Trump presidency, and can we initiate a precinct level strategy like Obama had done to be ready for that phase? Who wants to take that first? Chair is.
Okay, I knew you were going to point me anyway. So, I agree that's kind of what we did. We had an individual meeting for people to just share because they needed to. Just the Democratic Party who had been attending to share some of their concerns, and especially after that young lady stated that to me, we allowed them to share. And there was some anger. There was some things said that was pretty harsh in terms of Democratic Party, but they need to be heard. So one of the things that we did, we had a small group to start coming up with strategies of what we can do in the in-between. We can't wait until 2028 to start worrying about. We have to start now. So one thing we would do is we have a local headquarters that we will keep open, but we would utilize it. We will find time to set up opportunities to educate individuals. We will try and get into the schools to reiterate civic responsibilities to our children, but also to some of the communities where there are apartments, where there are adults who don't get out as much, that we can plan activities and stuff for those. As a matter of fact, we went and talked to some and planned some activities for some of the seniors or individuals in the apartment complexes. We are taking our county council meetings on the road in the community. We're going to those communities. As a matter of fact, our first meeting for January will be at a church area in the lower county, Clarks Hill, where we can hear from some of those citizens about what it is they need from us and what we can do differently. So we're trying to make sure they understand it's going to be rough. It's going to be tough for all of us. But what can we do about it so when it's time for us to pick up the ball and run with it, that we already know which direction we're going? So.
We'll take one more answer. Reba.
I'm a student of history, especially civil rights history, and so I look at this moment, it's a continuation of the constant civil rights struggle, and that is a struggle that is not a sprint, it's not a marathon, it's a relay, and this is our generation's time to grab the baton and carry on. Immediately after the election, I got responses, and I was pretty disturbed because I had veterans who had not previously been connected with our county party in a desperate situation. It was very dire. Thank goodness, being a registered nurse, I have the background to be able to handle situations like that, so perhaps it was divine intervention that I be here at this time. But I was able to build community with that opportunity. So through crisis comes opportunity. And through that, others started to come forward. Many started to come forward, more than could be received. So this is where I see the opportunity to take that precinct organizing idea and put it into full effect. I do not rely on national candidates to organize my community. It is not possible. They are one person trying to cover an entire nation. I take ownership and responsibility for my county party and my community because I know them best and I can learn them best, and people associated with us are in different pockets of the county and different communities that can help us and bring people and offer that connection for community so that we are not feeling alone. The Democratic Party is a broad coalition, and I think thinking of that, reaching out to other groups that are independent but very progressive and focused on moving forward rather than regressing backward. We can make connections with them and start to change the mindset. I can go back to Lee Atwater, I can go back to Newt Gingrich in the 90s. This idea of negative partisanship has really infected our communities. This idea that Republicans have hammered over and over to cast the Democrats as negative and bad, not to be associated with. This has infiltrated Democrats themselves. This has been my experience in the community. This has infected those who claim independent status and yet consistently vote Democratic. So that's been my challenge. That's the opportunity, is to help change those mindsets. And I did have an after-action meeting with a candidate, and one of the volunteers, not associated with us, but very excited about the candidate, came to me afterwards and said, "Why is it, I'm questioning now, why do I feel this negative association with the Democrats? I think I'll start coming to your meetings." So this is where we are.
All right, we have a time for one more question. But Alan, I'm going to challenge your premise that we're in the find out phase. I would say we are in the find out again phase. Because didn't we already find out 4 years ago? There were riots in the streets. There were empty shelves in grocery stores. COVID was spreading because they threw out the pandemic playbook. And we seem to have forgotten as a nation. 4 years. So we're about to find out again this disaster of a presidency and administration. Do we have another question? All right, we'll take Kat in the back. Sorry, Jim, she beat you to the question. Hold on.
My question is to piggyback on what you said. I agree that we're going to be in a find out. And just so y'all know, I'm just like her. I'm a veteran, I'm a nurse, and I'm an ICU nurse in trauma. And I can tell you something, how I feel about this country. We are in trauma. I mean, we're hemorrhaging. So if everybody wants to just sit back and be quiet, that's my problem with the Democratic Party. I'm like her. I'll step up if I need to because there's nobody there, because I don't want to see you bleed out. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that do we have a plan? So we have a crash cart if you're going to have your heart attack or something right now. We'll all jump in and give you a, zap or whatever you need, compressions. But what is the plan? Do we have a plan for CPR for what's going on? Because I believe it. We're going to find out. And I'm so mad about it, I say let it burn. Because they're not going to find out. You start burning down your house, I mean, not in a literal sense.
Yeah.
But if it's burning down, that doesn't shorten your memory because you got scar tissue from it. So,
All right, so the
do we
question,
have a
I believe,
plan?
is there a plan?
Is
So
there a
that
plan on
that's the
local
question.
level? Because I agree with her. It's all at local. So when it starts blowing up in Greenwood County, meaning Ware Shoals, wherever we're at, in town, it starts blowing up, it will. What's the plan? Do you have a plan in your county? You got a plan? What's going to happen? Well, if they take away, let's not even go drastic and say Social Security or Medicare or whatever.
All right, we're gonna let our guest answer that question now.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, and I think it's a wonderful question. For me, I prefer to identify policy suggestions and policy issues that we need to be discussing. And we recognize that we are headed into a headwind where we have a president who's developing a Department of Government Efficiency. Will hit many of those programs, whether it's Head Start, whether it's Social Security and Medicare, whether it's the Pell Grant for students going to college. We recognize we need to change the narrative of what these policies are. And it always struck me as being very unusual that policies that are developed to improve or expand the talent pool, whether it's education. And we recognize that he's already identified he wanted to get rid of the Department of Education. I think Democrats need to come together. It's a period of introspection. And what policies do we need to pursue to ensure that this inequality, going to work every day before I retired, I used to pass a Kentucky Fried Chicken that said we are hiring at $8 an hour. And we recognize that the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. Who can live on that? And I think that we really have to move in the direction of taking control of the narrative. We are not socialists in the sense that we want the government to produce public goods for the public. And we recognize that we have a president who, in my handout to you, we have seen this before. We've seen a plutocracy, the rule by the wealthy, a government of the wealthy, by the wealthy, and for the wealthy. Tax cut for the rich, cuts in fundamental social programs, denying the social responsibility and the public interest and the public goods that government should present to the people, overturning the New Deal, the Great Society. That's what we are faced with, and we need to talk public policy as we meet in these precincts and identify people who share the same views that we have to get this narrative and make it loud that we want to reach out to those non-college educated whites who voted in large numbers. And also we got to reach, we had 16% of African Americans to vote for Trump, 24% of black males voting for Trump. And we saw that with the Latino communities as well. So we got to change the narrative, and I think part of that is to talk about the policies that have made America great. Whether it's the New Deal, the Fair Deal, the Great Society, those are the things that we need to focus on in these particular groups.
Thank you. We are over time, so I want to say thank you to our guests. I appreciate your time with us and your wisdom. Appreciate your questions. Our immediate plan is to clean up, and please swing by the donuts and grab any extras. So start with a treat for the way home. We thank you, and we'll see you again next month here, February 1st, same time.